Hey guys, how's it going? It's Cuban B back with another video. I wanted to do something a little bit different today. I know it's not Cuban related. I still do Cube, but I wanted to upload some Shogi content because the Shogi English content world isn't very big. But basically I want to kind of upload some videos now and again on games I've played to kind of track my progress because I'm not too great right now. But throughout these videos, if I can expose more people to Shogi and if there are better people watching who can give pointers and whatnot, that would be awesome. So yeah, but if you don't know how the game works, it's kind of like Japanese chess, but cooler because you can reuse the pieces that you capture from your opponents. But I'll put some resources down in the description on learning how to play, and I'll also link the Atlanta Shogi Club Discord down there because I'm part of that. So yeah, the first game we're going to look at is the game before the game that got me to 5Q, and the reason we're looking at that game and not the game that got me to 5Q is because it was just better played, and there was a cool move I missed that I want to show you. So yeah, this game was against this Takashita here, who was a 3Q at the time on Shogi Wars. But we're going to look at my stats here, just to kind of track them over time. This is my current win rate, 0.583, and my win rate as Sente, which is playing first, so white in chess but black in Shogi, is 0.557, and then my win rate as Gote, which is black in chess but white in Shogi, is 0.606. But yeah, let's get into it. Alright, so it probably goes without saying that I'm treating this a bit like you know how the pieces move, but I will do some light explaining around different parts and also around when there's inaccuracies and mistakes and whatnot. But anyway, I was Sente, so I played first, and I wanted to play Shikembisha, which is 4th file rook, so I moved my rook over to the 4th file, and the opponent decided to go for static rook, like this. So we continue, the opponent pushes this pawn, which is normal. Here you want to move your bishop to protect against this, because if the rook comes down, you can take it with that bishop. So it's important to move there. And then we both just kind of continued, going for normal. Here my opponent opened the bishop line, and this kind of gives me a chance to play what's called KKS, Kaku Kokan Shikembisha, or Bishop Exchange 4th file rook. So here I exchange bishops. And here it's very important to advance this silver. If you don't do that and you do something else, the opponent can make this exchange, which is not good for us. So instead, it's important to advance that silver, because if he tries that now, he can't take this because it's protected. And also, we have this bishop drop. This is really nice because it's a fork, and if he usually it's a silver, not a gold over here, but if he draws back, you win this for free. And other times, if these silvers aren't advanced and you drop the bishop here instead, you can win this pawn and promote in his camp for free. So that's also really cool. But the opponent knew that that could happen, so instead we both advanced our silvers, and this functions the same as that bishop earlier, where this exchange can't be won. So we both just kind of kept going. The computer didn't like my opponent's move here, but I don't think it matters. It just kind of progresses like normal anyway. And so we both just kind of keep going. I formed Mino Castle, and my opponent kept going. Here I had two candidate moves. First is the one that I did, which is to move over here, but the second is to push this pawn, which is important in KKS because it can prevent the knight from advancing here in the future. Also, I probably could have pushed that, but it seemed a little passive. Anyway, the reason I chose this is because I was a little bit scared that the opponent would start advancing stuff and attacking before I could attack, so I just started. Here the opponent had an inaccuracy, which we'll see kind of led to that cool move I missed later that would have been nice. But anyway, the more natural move would have been to push this pawn because it allows either the silver or this knight to come forward. Oftentimes I see this knight come forward because it protects this square, and our silver is going to want to attack that square, so it's nice to have that protection. But anyway, the opponent did not do that, and I went for this typical pawn exchange. This looks like kind of like a climbing silver, but in ranging rook. Here, again, I think this probably would have been nice. Another good move was suggested by the computer, and that I also see sometimes is bishop drops to attack the rook, but then you can just kind of continue on. Anyway, instead of that, the opponent drew back their silver. I think their idea was to go like this, but it's kind of slow. So yeah, here is the move that I missed, which is really cool, and it's kind of a symptom of this pawn push earlier. I advanced my silver, which is the normal thing to do. However, there's this cool pawn drop that I missed. And this is really cool because it looks completely unprotected, but if the opponent takes it, I have this king rook fork, which is really, really nice. And the best the opponent can do is maybe something like this to get, the exchange, but we win at silver. So that would have been really cool. But I missed that and instead just advanced my silver like normal after they drew their silver back. Now, the opponent continued with their idea, but it wasn't the best. The computer suggests relocating to the central file, which makes sense because this pawn is pushed and I don't have as much protection over here. So that would have been good. But I advanced my silver again. Here, we'll see that I missed this bishop drop, which I found it later, but not at the right timing. And what the idea behind this is that it forces the opponent's rook to relocate to an inactive square. So that would have been nice, but instead I advanced the silver. Here, the opponent dropped the pawn to try to kick my silver, which is what I did, but the computer suggests this bishop drop instead. This has two meanings, which is that it not only attacks my rook, but prevents this bishop drop that relocates the rook. So that would have been nice, but both of us kind of missed this at first. So instead, the pawn was dropped and I drew back my silver. Here, it would have been really nice to drop that bishop because the opponent didn't drop theirs, but I didn't, and the opponent pushed this pawn instead. Here, I finally found that bishop drop. Since there was no opponent bishop here, this was okay to do, and the rook relocated. Here, I promoted, and this is kind of what I learned to do when I first saw KKS, was to kind of aim for this promotion if the line is open, but actually I had this pawn drop, which would have been nice. Normally this pawn is pushed, and if you drop the pawn, the knight can escape, but it can't here, so I could have won a knight for a pawn, but I did not. So I promoted, and I just kind of continued like normal. I tried to kind of break my way back into here, but the opponent blundered and dropped this pawn. The better move, which I was expecting, was to drop here. Basically what this does is the computer suggested something I hadn't actually ever tried, which is to relocate the bishop down here to attack this square, which would have been useful. I just never would have thought of it. I would have done and was planning to do this pawn drop instead. So had this occurred, I would have dropped that pawn. And the continuation is not super obvious to me at first glance with that sacrifice, but essentially we get to promote our rook and win a knight, which would have been cool. But instead, the opponent dropped there, which means I can win the exchange. So I take, and promote in the opponent's camp. And then the best move here would have been to drop this bishop, because it not only protects this knight, but also attacks my rook, and I can't move here because of the rook. If we look at the eval, it's plus 26, and it's kind of, I'm not entirely sure what the difference is, plus 25 if you drop the silver, which has the same function. So I'm not really sure why maybe the computer wanted to keep it in hand, but I think either move could have worked. But instead the opponent dropped there, which wasn't great because I could just escape and then drew the silver back. This doesn't do anything. I can win the silver for free with check, and then the king runs. If you look at this right now, this rook is trapped. I can't move anywhere, but I take this. It does open this space, but it's completely inactive anyway, so I didn't really care. I just won the knight. The opponent moved, and then I dropped this knight. And this is where my opponent resigned. This knight drop wasn't super effective, but it doesn't look great for the opponent either, so it makes sense. My idea was maybe to use these silvers, but the opponent can save that gold. So I'm not entirely sure what I would have done next, but it's not great. So anyway, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I know this is maybe a little confusing if you don't know how the game works, but yeah, I just kind of want to upload these now and again when there's cool games. I got one more I want to do for now, and then whenever there comes something else, I'll do that. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all later. Bye.